All right, welcome back to the channel. So, in the last wolf update video I made, I said that we were waiting on Colorado Parks and Wildlife to sort of release their initial plan, their initial master plan. So that has happened. That has come out, and they are calling it the draft wolf restoration, because the idea is that this is their sort of version one of this plan, and over the next couple of months, they're going to have a bunch of meetings that are going to be open to the public, so the public will be able to go and comment. And then there's also an online form. I will put a link in the description down here if you want to go make your own comments about the plan here. I would say, and remember, this has been voted on. This is happening. So commenting things like, "Oh, just abort this whole plan and just forget about it," that's not useful. That's not going to. They're not going to say, "Hey, yeah, you're right, we're canceling," because this has been voted on, so this is happening. But yeah, so that is where we stand right now. So let's take a look at the plan here, because it has answered to me at least some of the questions that I had. It does go over a lot of the things that I talked about in the first video, so I'm not going to rehash all that, but I definitely want to give what I think are the important takeaways to the CPW plan compared to the recommendations that came out from the stakeholder advisory group. So let's take a look here. So they even put a nice photo here. This is of one of the wolves that have been seen up in North Park. This was 2019, and you can see the collar on there. But yeah, and again, you can see this is draft. This is just version one, so this is not the final plan, but this is the first kind of stab at it. So the whole first part, like almost the first half of this, kind of just goes over all of the things that Colorado Parks and Wildlife, has taken into consideration, just all the different sort of aspects and scenarios that they're looking at, social tolerance for wolves, like how do we get people on our side, elk and deer and moose summary, like what are our populations looking like. So yeah, a lot of just considerations. It also goes over a lot of the studies and data that they used to make their decisions. They looked at, there was a gray wolf reintroduction plan that was brought forth in the early 2000s that obviously never went through or never got acted upon, but they looked at all of that work and was like, hey, what can we use out of this? Like, that's still relevant, what's not relevant anymore. So it just goes over where they pulled a lot of their data from, and sort of justifies why they've made certain decisions. So and of course that's all in conjunction with the recommendations that the SAG group presented as well. So if you go down here all the way to page 41, that's when we get into our first. Here we go. This is where we get to some of the good stuff here. So this is again about implementation, and it does answer some of the specifics that I was hoping for, which basically is around how many wolves, where, and when, and where are the wolves, where are we getting wolves from? Where are they coming from? So here you go. This is the first big takeaway for me. This plan anticipates that wolf reintroduction efforts will require the transfer of about 30 to 50 wolves over a 3 to 5 year period. So that basically means 10 to 15 wild wolves annually. So that is a smaller number than I thought. And I think for anybody who was worried that they were just going to release hundreds of wolves just out into the woods, that's not going to happen. This is going to be only 30 to 50 over 5 years. So that is, again, 10 to 15 a year. And yeah, I mean, again, I don't know anything about this, so the fact that number seems low to me, that doesn't mean anything. What do I know? But yeah, so that is that's also a pretty key number to me to make it seem like this is going to be a pretty slow release. So the other thing that is in here that I wasn't sure about was the difference between a soft release and a hard release. So a soft release is basically, we would take these wolves that we are getting from Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, which again, that's probably not surprising, but that's where we're going to get our wolves from. We will move wolves out of those 3 states. If something happens where that maybe one of the states doesn't want to work with us, we've already got a backup plan of going to Washington or Oregon. So that's where we're getting our wolves. But yeah, a soft release is basically what they would do is they would bring these wolves down that they plan to release, and they would sort of set up like a holding pen sort of in the area where they're going to be released. And what they would do is they would give the wolves some time to sort of acclimate to the area, and then they would like release. And that's called a soft release. We are not doing that. we are doing a hard release, which means we're going to get the wolves from wherever they're coming from. We're going to take them to the area where they're going to be released, and we're just letting them go. Like, there's just, off you go. There's no acclimation. It's a hard release. And the thinking here, or the reason that you would want to do that over a soft release, is that just moving them, getting them out there, that actually causes the least amount of stress to the animal. So that's sort of the thinking behind that. So that is what they're doing. So where? If we go down here, this map is something that I had in the other video. And basically what this is they've said, so remember, the amendment says, that got voted on, says that we're reintroducing gray wolves west of the Continental Divide. So here is the Continental Divide. So it's all going to be in areas over here on the western slope. You can't just release wolves like into Boulder, which I'm sure some people would want, but we can't do that. So it has to be west. And the way this is broken down is the green is what the area we would want to see over here, because that's the best for ecological suitability and the least amount of conflict risk. So avoid the purples, go for the greens. And like I said in the other video, I thought this area down here by Gunnison is just prime time for that. There's also another kind of good blob of green up here, kind of along the I-70 corridor, and I guess that's Vail over to like Glenwood Springs. So this area up here would be pretty good. And if you go down to the next map, they agree. So here is going to be the two different release sites. Again, the southern area down by Gunnison, and then yeah, this Vail to Glenwood Springs area here back up to the north. So when is this happening? So this, I'd mentioned in the previous video that I thought it would be anywhere between October to December of 2023. They have confirmed here the plan is December 2023. So basically a year from now. And they are going to do one release, and it is going to be up here in the north. So it's going to be December 2023, 10 to 15 wolves released in this area. So I would assume that means that the next release will be a year later, and it will be down here in the south by Gunnison. And by the south, I mean like central Colorado, but the southern target here. So anyway, so that's that. And to me, that's a pretty slow release. I think they will learn a lot after this first release up here. And not all of the wolves, but some of the wolves will have collars on, so they'll be able to track where they go, how they disperse out. Are they going to just stay right here because it's a very suitable environment, or are they going to move around? There is reminder, there's a 60-mile window or 60-mile buffer between state borders and between tribal lands. So that's, again, another reason why this area has been sort of focused on, because this area meets all of those requirements. So that's the where, when, how many, where are they coming from? So that's all that. The next big thing that I talked about in the other video was the sort of the livestock compensation. And so they do come up with a plan here. This was a big one. So what they're going to do is they are going to pay out at 100% fair market value, so FMV. The big dividing line, though, was about how to handle missing livestock. So whether that's a wolf has attacked and a bunch of livestock ran away and we can't find them, they're gone. Like, am I going to get paid out for the ones that have gone missing? When it came to mountain lion and bear attacks, the answer was no. You get paid out, like if there's an actual carcass there, then yes, you get paid out for that, but we don't pay out for animals that have gone missing. Like, we have to be able to prove that it was a predator. So they have changed on that. They are now going to compensate for livestock that goes missing. So that was a big thing that I know ranchers really wanted. So they get that. And in fact, it's not quite that simple. There's a little diagram down here that is very helpful. So here's how this works. So on top of getting just the fair market value for livestock that was killed by a wolf, the ranchers then have an option to seek more compensation for missing livestock. So there's either they can just be like a simple compensation ratio, which basically means like, hey, we're also missing 5 sheep, so you can just pay us out for 5 sheep and we'll just call it a day and go on our way, and just be done with it. There is another option here where that if the rancher says, no, we deserve more compensation than just the 5 sheep that went missing, this wolf attack has also caused these other hardships that we feel we deserve more compensation for. So, for example, it's like decreased sheep or cattle weight gain. So it's like, my sheep they're stressed out now, they're losing weight, they don't have as much wool, and that's affecting my bottom line. Or decreased sheep cattle conception rates, that affects my bottom line. So I feel like I should be compensated for that. So now each rancher has that option. Now going down this route where you're going to try to get more, it puts more burden on the rancher to really prove that this is, they deserve compensation for those losses. So the report says like, hey, just keep in mind, like, we want to offer this, but it's more paperwork, it's more burden. This is definitely the easier route to go. But the options are there. They can do whatever they want. There's also so when it comes to missing livestock, is that rancher implementing conflict minimization techniques? Yes. Okay. Well, then we will compensate, since you're doing your part to try to keep wolf livestock conflict down. We're going to go up to 7 for you. But if they're not doing some of those techniques, then they only get up to 5. But the fact that they're getting compensated for missing livestock that was a big deal. So that's in there. I think that's a win for ranchers in this. Again, I'm not a rancher, so I guess I can't say for 100%, but that to me seems like a pretty good deal. So I suppose there's going to be no way for everybody to be 100% happy, but I felt like this was pretty good. So those were that was the big information in here that I thought. I think, again, maybe people who weren't up to speed on this or didn't know and thought that there was just going to be hundreds of wolves out there roaming around looking for small children to eat. It's actually not happening. It's going to be 10 per year, so it's going to be a pretty slow release. So, but that's what I got, and that's where we stand right now. Like I said, the next piece of this will be after they get all the public feedback on this, they're going to make a draft version number 2. That's going to come out in April. So we will look at that when that comes out and see if there's been any big changes or if it's still kind of on track, or maybe it's just minor changes. That's what I'm thinking it'll probably be. I'm sure they will make some minor adjustments here and there. But yeah, I think that's where we stand right now. And then I think after version number 2 gets critiqued and feedback, then they make sort of the final go here for July, and then that's it. So yeah. So anyways, when the next update on this comes out, I will make a video about it and give you all the updates. But it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out over the next year or so. Actually, I guess it'll be over the next years, plural, to see how this works out. But like I said, I've read through all of these plans. I've read through the hundreds of pages, and I can tell you, I don't know if you trust me or not, but I can say that I think it's a good plan, and I do think it can be successful. But I do think there will be some bumps in the road. But overall, I think it's going to be good. So that's the update for now. And yeah, thanks for watching.